We're going to take a quick look at the Jewish Virtual Library website, since what we read in another book might come as a shock or surprise to certain people, and they're like, oh no, I don't believe it. They couldn't have migrated to West Africa. Let's check and see what the Jewish Virtual Library website says. This is a Jewish source put together by Jewish historians. Oh, and the title of this webpage is Nigeria Virtual Jewish History Tour. JewishVirtualLibrary.org. All right. We're going to jump to right here where it says persecution. Persecution and trade have been the major influencing factors in how the Jews migrated through Africa. So they migrated through Africa. Of course, they have to migrate through Africa to get to West Africa from the Middle East. So although the focus of this presentation is Jews in the Kingdom of Judah on the slave coast of West Africa, of course, there's going to be Jews scattered throughout Africa as well. During periods of Islamic persecution and for the purposes of trade, Jews moved from communities in Egypt, Ethiopia, Tunisia, and Morocco to more remote regions of North and West Africa. Trade routes to West Africa may have been established as early as the period in which David ruled Israel, and the term Tarshish, found in the Tanakh, which is the Hebrew Bible, may refer to the Ivory Coast of West Africa. One last part of this page that I want to read right here. The decline of Jewish communities of West Africa can be traced to the arrival of Muslim invaders in the 14th and 15th centuries. North and West African Jews banded with other local communities of Berbers, Christians, and Greeks to ward off the invaders, but eventually succumbed. Many were forced to convert to Islam, sold into slavery, or simply massacred. In the face of this persecution, written traditions such as the Torah were lost. So this little bit right here is important because it explains that Jews in West Africa, when they were conquered by the Muslims, their Torahs, written records, all that. We're going to read in the next source, or one of the next two sources, how all their books and all their writings were destroyed and burnt by the Muslim invaders. So that's important for the people who like to say that Black Jews must be converts because they don't have any of the tradition or, any of that stuff. This explains why. They had all that stuff and it was destroyed by Muslim invaders. Now, this next book that we're going to get into explains why they did not have a Torah. We already read from the Virtual Jewish website that their books and their records were destroyed when they were invaded by Muslims. So this is going to give more context. This is Atlas Geographus, or a complete system of geography, ancient and modern, published in 1714. We're going to be on page 39. It says right here at the top. And we're going to start right here. It says, so much for the whites. So much for the whites. So he's letting you know that he's done talking about white people. He must have been talking about white people up here. He's saying, so much for the whites. We shall treat of the blacks when we come to Guinea, Negro Land, and the Cape of Good Hope, where they inhabit. Guinea and Negro Land. Guinea's in West Africa. We just looked twice at where Guinea was and how the tribe of Judah migrated there and how it's in West Africa. Negro Land, when you look at the old maps, Negro Land is right above Guinea. So that's West Africa. The Cape of Good Hope, I believe, is somewhere in South Africa. But he's saying, we shall treat of the blacks when we come to Guinea, Negro Land, and the Cape of Good Hope, where they inhabit. So much for the whites. He's going to talk about the blacks now. Leo says there are other kingdoms on the southern frontiers of this country which are inhabited by a rich, industrious, and just sort of people. Judaism was the religion of the ancient Africans for a long time and succeeded by Christianity. So he's saying before Christianity, Judaism was the religion of ancient so-called Africans. And we know he's talking about West Africa particularly because he says Guinea and Negro Land right here. Judaism was the religion of the ancient Africans for a long time and succeeded by Christianity. But Mohammedanism which is Islam, Muslims, but Mohammedanism prevailed in the 208th year of the Hijra, when all the Jews, Christians, and professors of the African religion that could be found were put to death. Yet in process of time, their intestine quarrels made them neglect Muhammad's law and revolt from the Caliph of Baghdad, for which they were severely punished by the Mohammedan caliphs, who caused all their books to be burnt, on suspicion that the knowledge of the arts and sciences prompted them to condemn Muhammad's law. So it's basically saying that the Jews, Christians, and professors of the African religion, all their books were burnt by the Muslims because they didn't want them to be influenced by anything other than Islam. Islam, when it came to West Africa, they burned all the books and records and everything because they didn't want them to be focused on anything other than Islam. And very quickly, I'm going to show a 1729 map of Negro land. This is the Negro land map I'm sure you're all familiar with. There should be. It says a 1729 map titled Negro land and Guinea. This is Negro land up here. This is Guinea right here. As you can see, as I've been saying, Guinea was a lot larger. And here's the slave coast. This is where Judah was. So the book we just finished reading, it says, we shall treat of the blacks when we come to Guinea, Negro land. And here we see Guinea and Negro land. He's saying there were Jews there, and their books and records got burnt by the conquering Muslims